Okay, in this next lesson, we are going to look at how to appropriately apply reverb and delay to our tracks. So, you might think that the main way you do it is just grab a reverb and we'll chuck it on a track, and away we go. But as soon as you turn up this reverb, and once it loads, and when we turn this reverb up, say if we set it to 100%, we want this reverb to be up 100%, so it's fully affecting this track. We start to lose clarity in this track. It starts to get lost in the background. Let's have a listen to it. So we could just apply less reverb. So in the dry wet knob, maybe just bring that back in. If we were to change this dry wet knob, we could bring it down. But what if we wanted a full reverb but still wanted to keep the full sound of the track as well? Well, the way we implement reverb and delay is by using these return tracks down in the bottom right-hand corner here. Now, you can see by default that a reverb and delay is already loaded into your Ableton session. That's how common it is to apply reverb and delay this way. So basically what it is, a return track is a track that doesn't kind of I guess it only receives sounds, that doesn't create sound. So you can send sound to it, but it doesn't actually create sound like a MIDI or an audio track. You can only send sound to it for it to do or apply certain things to. So what's going to happen is basically we will send the sound from this track down to the reverb track, and then it'll basically duplicate the track, but you'll have one in the mix that's completely dry without the reverb on it, and then you'll have another version that's completely wet, has all the reverb on it, and it blends with the original sound. So I'll give you an example of this. So we'll just solo this melody track, and I'll start playing, and what I'm going to do is start sending the sending the melody to the reverb track, to the reverb return track down here, by boosting this first knob here, or this first box here. So just dragging up and down. This first box relates to the first return track, and the second box relates to the second return track. If we insert another return track, you'll see a third box load up, and that'll send it to the third track, and it will keep going until we have all the return tracks that we need in a session. So I'm just going to delete that one we just made. So again, I'm going to send this melody track down to the reverb return track by dragging this box up here. So let's have a listen to the effect of the sound. So I've only got a subtle reverb on the track, and so when I boost it, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But say let's do this to the drum track. I'm just going to turn that back down. So let's do that to the drum track here, and let's boost the reverb within the drum. So I'll solo the drum group, and I'm going to apply it to the whole group. And we'll find a place where the drums are playing. And so you can hear that creates a nice ambience to the drum track. If I was to play that to the rest of the track, let's take a listen. So it just creates a nice subtle ambience for the drum tracks to blend into. Now, we can do this on any track we want, really. If we want to send, a melody group to the reverb, we can. So let's just have a listen to the whole group with the reverb on it. Now, it might sound like there's already reverb on there, and that's because there is. If we remember, within most of our massive groups, we've actually added reverb and delay onto most of the tracks anyway, or some of the presets already have them on there. So sometimes you don't need to add delay, but things like the drums, for example, before, where we had a completely dry sound, I reckon they really need a reverb so they can blend into the sound a little bit more. Likewise with our synths, most of them already have reverbs on them within the track. So if we have a look at this massive track, already has a reverb and delay on the track. So there's not much point to actually adding it if you've already added it somewhere else. But it's just a good way to actually apply it to a track without, just overcoming the track with reverb by applying it directly onto the track itself. One other good aspect of it as well is if you look up the top right hand corner, this gives you like a CPU load meter. So it basically tells us how much CPU our computer is playing. So if I was to actually play a bit of the track and have a look at it, a quarter of our CPU is being used up by this track alone. Now, if we were to apply reverbs to every one of these tracks, reverb and delay, I guess, are one of the most, computer-intensive processes you can run. You'll see your sessions starting to crash and starting to glitch out. So, and using 50-60% of your CPU, and it starts to freeze and you end up losing work. So, applying reverbs in this way is a really good idea. In terms of the reverb settings, now you've got decay time and size are probably the two main ones you want to play around with, because this will change the reverb the most. I'm not going to bother explaining everything what they do, because we could spend half an hour on this video. But you want to make sure the dry wet is all the way up if you're applying it to an auxiliary track. Up here, basically, these are just different ways to affect the reverb. So a chorus affects the reverb, filters and things like that. Filtering before it comes in, all that sort of stuff. But what you'll find is in the reverb drop down from the audio effects menu, there is so many different reverb sounds you can already use. So, why reinvent the wheel when, if we want like something like a large, like a medium concert hall reverb type sound, or even, bigger, we want a, let's go with a cathedral to the extreme. We can just drag and drop one of these onto our reverb track. And now if we were to apply the cathedral reverb to the drums, let's just have a listen. And so that's a bit ridiculous, probably a bit too, a bit big for what we need. But say let's we go to the, like the medium hall or something like that. And again, probably still a bit too big. So let's go even lower. Let's just try even something different, maybe like a room. And I think there's one actually called, let's try Bright Room. Probably a little bit too small. What I'm going to do is just increase the decay time and the size. There's a reverb I'm happy with. Kind of just gives a nice little sizzle to the track after you've created it. Okay, for delay, we can apply it in the exact same way. We just got to change the, increase the box next to the reverb box that we just increased. So if we wanted to send something to the delay down to this track here, we just apply it in that manner. Now, I'll explain what the delay actually, the numbers actually do in the box. So this is just related to semiquavers. So if we're at 128 beats per minute, I guess every beat, if we've got it set to 1, then the very next semiquaver, a delay reflection is going to play. So if I just give you an example of this on the kick drum here, from this section here, and if I play the delay track, and let's increase the send to the delay track here. So basically it begins to reflect in semiquavers. If I press this one here, it will reflect in quavers. And then dotted quavers. And then crotchets, because that's 4 semiquavers. And because that's in line, because that's in line with the crotchets there, you won't be able to hear it as much. But that's basically what happens. And one's a left speaker, one's a right speaker. So you could effectively have different things happening in each speakers and make it sound really trippy. But for the most of the time, you're not going to want to apply it to drums anyway. And, mostly in electronic dance music, you don't want probably reverb and delay. You want one or the other. And when you're using delay sounds, I guess, you want them to kind of emulate reverb sounds anyway. I'll give you an example of this. So if I was to set this delay to be a semiquaver pattern and turn the feedback down, I'm going to probably just turn the, the send up just enough to kind of act like a reverb anyway and just give a few reflections in the background. And I'll just go back to the delay and probably turn the feedback down a little bit. So it kind of just effectively comes like an echo in the background, similar to the reverb. Now this could actually create a cool effect with the reverb. Let's have a listen to it. Yeah, they kind of mask each other. So again, that's just how you apply delay, is just by sending it to the delay track. Now, delay would probably mostly be used on vocals and some kind of synth as well. Like, for example, I'll apply it to our main melody synth here, and we'll see if we can come up with something cool. So you can kind of hear it when it stops, it kind of tapers off, and you hear the delay kind of roll over there. And just have a listen to this track here. And yeah, again, it kind of just creates the same as a reverb effect anyway. If we were to boost the feedback a little bit more. And turn the send down a little bit. You can kind of hear it taper off into the background. So effectively, it's just like another reverb effect. And that's probably the most common use for delays in EDM. Except for on vocals, you might want to, I guess, create like a more delayed sound within the vocal track. But in this case, we're using just absolute MIDI, basically, and not using any vocals. So we'll get to that at a later date, I guess. But yeah, that's how you send or apply reverb and delays to tracks. You do it by sending it to return tracks. And then that way you can keep the original sound within the mix, and also then apply the reverb and delay to the track as well, and kind of have a balance between the two. It's also a good idea to preserve CPU on your computer as well. Anyway, I hope that all made sense, and you can go through and start applying a reverb and delay to your tracks. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to apply some reverb and delay to some of my tracks, and I'll play you the end result. Okay, I've gone through and applied the reverb, I guess, overall to my synth group. So all those synths are now affected with the reverb getting sent down to the reverb return track. Also, I've applied the delay to the ARPS track. My melodies all have the delay over it, not so much reverb because there's a lot of reverb already in the massive synth. I've had quite a bit of reverb to my bass. I'll just play it for you. It kind of adds like a nice, I guess, thickness to it because it doubles the track, but also kind of adds like a soaring kind of effect to it with the reverb as well. Let's just have a listen to it. So a nice kind of clubby kind of effect to it. And then I've applied just the reverb to all of my drums by applying it to the group in general. Which we heard before, but I'll apply it from the main drop. So you can hear the difference there. All together, I will play it from the drop and let you be the judge. And there you have it. That's how you apply reverb and delay using return tracks and sends.